Hey everybody, welcome to Xavia Fox Talks, and I'm your host, of course, Xavia Fox. Today we are doing Ask the Attorney. As you know, the show is always for you and about you, and some of the things that we deal with sometimes is of a legal nature, and we don't always have opportunity to consult with an actual attorney, whatever may hinder that process. But on Xavia Fox Talks, we are going to bring a resident attorney to you as often as you need her. So if you send in your questions, we will send them to her and she will show up and answer your questions. Now, our attorney, she deals with real estate, entertainment, business development, and fashion. Now you may say, does that make her the fashion police? Well, let's ask Miss Shara Danielle Harris. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing today?
Yeah,
good. I'm good. Thanks for joining the team.
good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, definitely. I'm looking forward to our shows because, of course, everybody has legal questions, and you can't always have the opportunity to consult with an actual attorney. So I really appreciate you giving your time to do this for people.
Okay.
It's a great thing. So let's start off. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself and the different areas that you focus on?
Okay. I have been in practice for 8 years now, and practice is located in the downtown area. I went to John Marshall Law School and graduated in 2002. Started off in private practice right after I graduated from law school. Had a number of mentors that kind of guided me in the right direction. Ended up focusing on real estate, business formation and development, and asset protection planning initially.
Okay.
And here recently, within the past year or so, I have branched off into some other areas, which include entertainment law, dealing with television, film, music, visual arts, representing authors and the like. The fashion law piece deals a lot with designers, clothing designers, manufacturers, and showrooms and models, and reviewing their contracts. So it's an exciting,
that sounds exciting
time for my practice.
So you're not actually the fashion police?
That's correct. Unless you're out there copying. That piracy thing is huge.
Piracy.
Knockoffs, and I'm sure you've seen the fake Louis and Gucci bags. All of that is under the fashion law realm. So.
Okay. Wow, knockoffs. I never thought of that. All right. I have a couple questions that fit into your realm of expertise, and I believe that though we didn't get a lot of people writing in about it, because I think some people are a little sensitive about issues that may be going on in their lives as far as divulging that information, but there's definitely a topic that everybody has been affected by, and it's foreclosures. Yeah. So can you talk to us a little bit about foreclosures and what, what options people may have that they may not know about, what your advice on dealing with it? How long does the foreclosure process even take in Chicago? I'm from Milwaukee, so I know that whole process, but I know it varies from, I used to buy foreclosures, so I always felt bad. I felt like I was preying on people who were going through foreclosures. So I'm like, can't wait till that house comes up for auction, But, from the other side, that's definitely the time frame to support. So can you talk to us about that?
Well, to start and answer your first question, what most people don't realize is that they do have rights. When the bank starts calling, and if they have fallen behind on their payments, they immediately think and they go into denial mode. They don't want to talk to anyone, including the bank, but that's the wrong thing to do. At the point that you determine that you are having some difficulties with your finances, and if non-payment of your mortgage is imminent, that's the time to start talking to someone, whether it be your attorney or your bank. You want to let them know that you foresee that there might be a problem coming. At that time, it's a little easier to work out modification until, I've had some clients who called me 7 months down the line, and it's really too late at that point. And your next question was, how long does the process typically take? It typically, after the first 3 months of non-payment of your mortgage, that's when you'll start receiving letters in writing from the bank. They'll let you know you're in default on your loan, and that they will be filing foreclosure proceedings if they do not receive some sort of communication or a payment to bring.
So are they looking for communication?
Absolutely. I mean, that's
So
always
some type of
best.
payment arrangement is what they're
It's
looking
always
for.
best, so
Okay.
they understand what's happening.
Okay.
They can modify loans. You're hearing in the news that it's extremely difficult to do that, and the reason being is because people wait too late most of the time.
What is typically too late?
Too late is after they've filed foreclosure proceedings. Once that process starts and the filing takes place, that's when the time starts ticking. There's a 7-month redemption process. You have 3 months to reinstate the loan, meaning to bring the payments current, and 7 months after the filing to redeem the loan, meaning to pay it off in full. So after 3 months, you really have no choice but to refinance or pay off the loan.
Oh, wow.
Okay, unless there's some, things they give and take, but that communication is key. Once the filing occurs, that's when the process starts in the courts.
So someone going through foreclosure, what are the option to sell? So what would you suggest, or what's your viewpoint on possibly someone going through foreclosure trying to sell before that foreclosure?
Well, depending on the situation, I would certainly enlist the services of a realtor, someone who's familiar with the community, familiar with the market pricing, recent sales in the area, so you have an idea of what the value is of your property, and you can go to the bank and let them know, well, I've made attempts to sell, but this is what my situation is. The property value is much lower than what it was initially. I cannot sell it for what I owe to you, the bank, and then they will probably send their own appraiser out or obtain a broker price opinion, get another broker's involvement to give them an estimate of value. Once that happens, they'll let you know. They'll want to see the property on the market, which shows that you've made reasonable attempts to sell the property for the price that they would consider reasonable. So in line with the market pricing.
Will that push the foreclosure date back?
It probably will if they have not already filed. If they have filed, you can get extensions if you're at the point where it's going to sale, a foreclosure sale.
Okay.
But you'll need to stay in communication.
Okay.
Once it's filed, you really have another party that you're needing to communicate with, and that being the bank's attorney.
Okay.
So once it's good to have as little interference as possible. When you're dealing with the bank, it's a little easier than when you have other parties involved. So when that middleman, the bank's attorney, gets involved, it's a little bit more difficult if you're doing an added layer.
So let's jump over to entertainment for a second. So one of the things in even starting the talk show that I had to consider was copyright and trademark. I know there's a lot of entertainers that probably don't know what they need to copyright, what they need to trademark, what exactly is the difference. So can you give us some information on that?
Well, as far as copyrights and trademarks are concerned, any idea, anything that's put to paper is eligible for copyright protection. So once you have an idea, it's put to paper, that's the time that you want to protect those ideas. And when it's just in the mind, it's a little difficult to protect that. So it's important that even if you don't take the appropriate steps to go through the Copyright Office, to make sure you put those symbols. You see sometimes at the bottom of documents, copyright and the year, and that's the year that that document was produced. So you want to make sure that
Also, you can utilize the copyright symbol without legally being.
Well, I mean, it's a showing that you understand this is your work. Okay. So someone who has obtained a copy of anything that you've written or produced, then they're on notice. Okay. They can't say that they didn't know that this was your work. Okay. But I think that the best way to have that protection is to go through the Copyright Office.
Now, tell me about this, what do they call it, the poor man's copyright? So, if you actually write it out and you mail it to yourself once it gets that date stamp from the post office, is that really the poor man's way to copyright his work?
It's not necessarily. I mean, once it's in writing, once you put pen to paper, it's protected. But you want to make sure again that you're smart, and that's the beauty of having an attorney, making sure you have counsel with respect to making sure that especially if you're working with someone else and you're collaboratively working on projects, and you want to make sure that everyone gets credit for their work and contribution. As far as trademarks are concerned, there is a trademark office that you can go to make sure that your mark is protected, and mark meaning the name or logo for your entity, your your project.
Okay.
So you can go through the trademark office to do that. Now that's a pretty more extensive process, so you want to go through an attorney as well to make sure that you understand the ins and outs of that protection. Both websites, the Copyright Office and the Trademark Office, have workshops that are available online for viewing.
Oh, really?
To give you a step-by-step process of how to review forms, how to get basic, register your basic trademarks and copyrights.
Oh, I didn't know that. So we can go online
Yes.
and learn about copyrights and trademarks as well.
That's right.
That's good stuff.
That's
See,
right.
this is why we have a resident attorney.
There's so much information available online that it boggles the mind, but going right to the source, the government is where your registration will come from. For the trademark, the government is where your copyright protection will come from when you go through those appropriate channels to get the information and the how-tos, in addition to having your attorney to kind of answer those questions that they won't or might not be able to answer, then you know that your best interests are served.
Okay, that sounds great. I am going to jump back to your real estate side for a moment. Because lease to own. Having owned property, I know the value of getting someone in a lease to own contract. They have to put down the money, they pay a higher fee monthly, and then they have to secure the credit and a mortgage within a certain period of time. Otherwise, they kind of lose all of that. However, from the other side, I had a cousin that got caught up in a lease to own, and she paid out all this money, and when she couldn't secure a mortgage, she kind of got ripped because you don't get that money back. What is your thoughts on the lease to own, and who is it good for on the consumer end? As a property owner, I can't, that's like a win-win.
Well, yeah, it depends on the agreement. There is no, not every lease to own agreement is the same. Not every land contract agreement is the same. And there are two different things. When you're renting or leasing to own, you have a standard rental agreement. So you're just a tenant, and you may have an option to purchase, or you may have an agreement whereby a portion of your payments are going toward a future purchase. Okay? A land contract actually transfers equitable interest at the time of that execution of that document, and you're paying in installments until at the end of a 1 year or 2 year term, and then you're agreeing to pay off the balance, at which point you would get financing for the purchase of the property, but you would have an equitable interest with the land contract. Again, there's a difference between the two, and there's no one agreement that will govern all lease-to-own transactions. So you want to look very carefully at the terms of that agreement. If you're in a rent-to-own, I've seen this a number of times, where the tenant expects that a portion of their payments or all of their payments are going toward the purchase, or they don't understand that they may be responsible for taxes and insurance, and all the other utilities and responsibilities that go along with maintaining and upkeep of the property. So you want to make sure that that's lined out in the agreement. If you are in a situation where you're credit challenged and you enter into a lease-to-own agreement, know that within a year's time frame, you want to be comfortable and know whether or not you're even on track to be able to purchase a property after 1 year. Even though it seems like it may be a long period of time, it's actually pretty short. If you filed bankruptcy recently, it may take more than a year to get you on track for a purchase. So you want to look at that very carefully. Now, and also if you're in a rent-to-own or lease-to-own situation and you've agreed to purchase, you want to know what's that purchase price going to be. So you have some sort of idea on what you're shooting for. Do you even have the buying power, or will you have the buying power in a year's worth of time to purchase a $200,000 property? So land contracts, again, work a little differently because you have the price set out, you're making installment payments, and you know at the end of that term you're going to be, you're on the hook for being able to get financing. Otherwise, whatever you put up in terms of a down payment, that is typically forfeited, but again, depends on the terms of the agreement.
I guess my next question is, so what are some of the questions that you get on a regular basis?
Well, with respect to real estate, most of the questions are, at what point do I need to retain an attorney? If you are working with a realtor, most times that realtor will prepare the contract, the offer to purchase, and you won't have an attorney at the time of writing up the contract. But make sure that if you do that, if you go into any contractual relationship, that you have an attorney review period, meaning once all parties have signed, you have at least a reasonable 5-7 day time frame to have your attorney review the document and give you an out or a time period for modifying those terms within that time frame, so you're not stuck with terms that you're not necessarily comfortable with or may not be in your best interest.